Hello, my name is Jorge Forero, and my proposal is titled Code, Poetry, and Freedom. You might be wondering what computer codes, the art of poetry, and the concept of freedom have in common. This research addresses some paths that aim to obtain a critical perspective regarding this relationship, and that they are tuned with Eduardo Ledesma's idea in terms that in Latin America art converge as an element of autonomy from the functional needs of the structure of code itself, while on the other hand it attempts to historicize and politicize it by anchoring code in practices of resistance. As an initial frame, we will place ourselves from the perspective of the artist Alan Sondheim, who proposed a name, a definition, and a taxonomy for the relationship between code and poetry. From his perspective, code work are basically art that integrates computer code in its overall aesthetic. Code work can be grouped into three layers. In the first layer we have works using the syntactical interplay of surface language with reference to computer language and engagement. This would be the case of Algol poems, writing by Dioulipo Noël Arnaud, who suggest using common expressions between natural language and high-level programming languages common as a fundamental part of the poems. Another perspective in this category also suggests the inclusion of abstract symbolic elements of code in poetry. A reference in this sense is the Messenger project by the Australian artist Mary Ann Breeze. Messenger incorporates code snippets as well as coding structures such as indentation, parentheses, and other symbols to create new meanings. Many Latin American artists have adopted a code-inspired aesthetic. In this sense, we can find reference in some works of the Uruguayan artist Brian McKern that fall into the first Sondheim's category. The project Wartimes, for example, is a code work that is situated on the invasion perpetrated by the United States to Iraq. As Messenger, Wartime does not use a functional programming language, but far away from Messenger's aesthetical concerns, Wartime is situated in a notorious political context. In a second layer, we have works in which merged code has modified the surface language, with the possible representation of the code as well. In this category, codes are executable, in the sense they can be compiled and translated into a functional machine language. Thus, there are many subgenres of code poetry, as there are programming languages. An interesting subcategory, it incorporates esoteric programming languages and group obfuscated programming writing styles. Finally, at the third layer we have those projects in which the source code emerges as content. There is a deconstruction of superficial language and a dichotomy between the layers of languages. In this category, Sondheim proposed the works of Netochka Nesvanova and Jody among other artists, alluding to their hybrid and rhizomatic characteristic in the use of languages. The technopoetic works developed by the Mexican artist and programmer Eugenio Tiselli goes from net art to code poetry. His codework project entitled Degenerativam consists of a web page that degrades the code as it is visited. In a broad sense, live coding performance can be considered in the third category in Sondheim's taxonomy. The idea has its antecedent with the works of Ronqueville, who together with his experimental group, The Hub, composed the piece Water Surface, done in a programming language called the Fourth Music Language, developed by David Anderson and Cuvilla. As described by the pioneer of the format, Alex MacLean, and his colleagues Adrian Ward and David Griffiths, live coding can be defined as the interactive control of algorithmic process through the programming activity. The style of music is not fixed, which suggests that live coding is a performance method rather than a genre. A typical live coding performance involves programmers writing code on a stage with their screen projected for the audience and their code dynamically interpreted to generate music and graphics or both together. Since the source codes that generate the audiovisual performances are usually projected publicly on a screen, live coding format is closely linked to the floss culture. The term floss refers equally to the concept free and open in order to unify both approaches. Martin Selinger introduced the idea that in the field of copyright, live coding practices can further highlight some of the inherent flaws in traditional intellectual property law. Thus, he argued that live coding has the possibility to radically destabilize intellectual property for two main reasons. First, the strong improvisational characteristic of the art form challenged the traditional definition of composer. Second, his challenge of palimpsemetic natures. The fertile field of studies on jazz improvisation, which offers us a relevant context for this present discussion, shows that improvised practices are recognized as powerful modes of political expression, useful to understand social changes and to break with structurally inscribed hegemonies in the music. In the field of live coding from Abya Hernani Villaseñor Ramírez registered the first activities in Mexico carried out by the members of the audio workshop of the Multimedia Center. My approach to live coding is related to the workshop that the Chilean artist Cristiano Yarzun shared in the Faculty of Architecture of the University of Chile. Christian, by the time, had just arrived from the International Live Coding Conference in Morelia, Mexico, where he was able to meet the Latin American coders. The workshop introduced us to title cycle software and discussed some interesting work that has been presented at the conference. In particular, he mentioned the case of the Colombian artist Celeste Bentancur, who developed a proposal called Cine Vivo, with which it is possible to create live coding using natural language. Codes and programs provide us new readings and tools with which we can critically analyze and construct cultural heritage. For this reason, free access to source code seems to be so important by today. In the same sense, we must establish consensus to decode and share language. Otherwise, it will be the predominant hegemonies that will make a violent conquest of that territory. Live coding and flaws, in this sense, naturally align themselves with a critical and emancipatory perspective. In effect, it is about raising and writing that, following Eugenio Tiselli, can break with the hegemony of economic behavior and its correlative technocracy, proposing from language other ways of understanding our way of existing. Thus, also Griffiths distinguished a Mexican style that he proposed to build from the blank page. This proposal is far from just being aesthetic. The blank page is the possibility that we have from Abya Yala, since we have continually built ourselves in search of identity. But we have to stay awake. There's still a lot of language to retrieve.